parents could see, to really understand the work that we're trying to do, and the students could see early on, understand the work, and have really online I would almost like to see like a career gaming platform or something for our students, where they explore pathways, they see the college programs, they see how they stack, and then really how they're linked, and then that makes them active participants. They're kind of visioning, they're dreaming. They're not just getting career exploration like once a month or once a semester or whatever it is. It's really an ongoing process, and then it's also those become tools that instructors could use in their classrooms to get students actually thinking about this as a part of what they teach in terms of core content. So I'm going to skip to actually the last slide.
Can I just ask in this area, because just to get to kind of the nuts and bolts here tonight, because a lot of it's going to be another conversation. It's not that Mount Double wants to order it up like fast food. Here are the 3 things we like. But just some of the things we've talked about as a district in linking. And I don't know if Dr. Meyer has something you want to say in particular. I mentioned 2, which was the dual enrollment concept. We've also talked about the career pathways and how that might link. But in dual enrollment, we talked about how we can have a staff member, for example, at a high school certified, and I know one of the high schools I spoke with down in Southern California that does that program said teachers with a master's degree could be certified to be a community college for that class period that is taught on the high school campus. So that was one thing we talked about, and then the other was I know at Pittsburgh Unified you actually have a drama teacher from Los Medanos going over to Pittsburgh to teach the drama class on the campus, so that's another model. And then, so that's one of our teachers being authorized to say teach a class, which would link with the community college, which would be a community college course with the textbook and curriculum and tuition. And then the community college link of a staff member coming in to teach that. And then the idea that our kids going, and that'll lead us into the middle college. Mr. Nedgedly here, he's a good timekeeper, boy. He's got the middle college program, the idea that we actually move kids over, they're actually young adults, over into the community college, and they have that in West Contra Costa Unified. So we talked about that as well. So those conversations would be the ones, I think, and I don't know if Dr. Meyer has anything else on that we were talking about how we pursue this in support of the community college and how that would work.
Well,
I'm sorry to cut you off here.
I actually was going to just reiterate what Randy stated. Another option is when we have students who have their 240 minutes, their 4 classes at the high school, and then they come over either in the evening or after school, or sometimes depending on their flexible day, early in the morning to the community college and take courses in the summer, etc., in accelerated fashion. So. All of these pathways are things that we've been discussing that we're interested in looking at.
When we recognize there's a lot of structural ways to do this, and there's advantages and disadvantages to each of them. Where the colleges are at right now, so we're actually holding a faculty institute in June to talk about horizontal alignment across the 4 colleges in the DGI grant. So if we're saying manufacturing, where can I get my manufacturing programs to degree? This is a course that's a good gateway course to all of our programs. So the student can actually take some course that's a maximum value. If it's information technology, what is that course? Is there a foundation, of course, in health careers? We can say this gives a student a leg up in all of our healthcare pathways. And if we can get, first of all, if we get alignment on that, it's going to be pretty profound. But secondly, then I think we begin to open up the technical questions. If we know what the course is, we can say this is the course. Because for us to go to scale, it can't be a million different courses. We need to have kind of a set number of courses that really provide the access points for students, and then figure out the mechanics of kind of which way we want to go.
So I'm hearing from the grants and the direction. Obviously, it makes sense for career pathways. Obviously, we're trying to prepare students for something for the rest of their lives. But that sounds like the real access point that you're hoping we go through continue. We have some of those articulation agreements, but that we go through the pathways. Career pathways, because that's where the colleges and your grant funding is.
Well, and I think for that large group of students who were relatively unmotivated by school, I think that's where we kind of get them motivated, because it's like, hey, we're just going to make you a college student. You think you're struggling in high school, but we're going to get you ready, and we're going to make you a college student. And a lot of times, like when I look, like say, at core community schools, which is where I think is a really interesting population to look at, There's another CCPT grant, round 2 grant that's pending right now that I think we may get in this region, targeting that community. Some kids just don't like high school classrooms. They're just done with high school, and it's really how do we move them forward into college? I think they're much ready to be college students very often than they are to be high school students. So that hinge course becomes that kind of gateway, that kind of way that both that you can say that your students have completed some college, and we can say, hey, we're ready to take them. This is part of our multiple measures. They've done the placement exam, but they've done college level work, so we can actually say,
Right.
we're going to
Well, in our district right now, we're very open to opportunities. We're flexible, we're creative. And so what we're actually hoping tonight is when we leave, we can look at some access points or some follow-up, you know, and Mr. Enholm on his notes had mentioned forming a joint board committee of 2 trustees each from Mount Diablo and the Community College District to follow up on the results of this, because I always am a big believer, we have these conversations, so then how do we take the next step? Because we're very serious about how we can partner and work together, because we want our students motivated in that direction, and we know this is the access point. So I would look too, by the end of the evening, I hope, if Mr. Nedgley is going to be on, including me on the that we leave with some sort of an agreement. We're not taking action, but that we reach an agreement on next steps to help define those access points, and maybe a couple of ways that we can branch out. We have some things, but how we can go to the next step as a district working with the community colleges in something specific that our kids could access at. We're really looking at DVC and Los Medanos both.
So we built like a 2-year work plan from the community college side. This was getting the 4 colleges to say, because it's about what do we think we can accomplish according to what timeline. Our goal would be by fall of 2016 to be doing this really at some level of scale, presuming that we may have to retool, retweak some curriculum, take it through the curriculum process next year, maybe pilot some things in spring. We do have some courses that could be offered next spring, particularly in the IT side, but then really kind of ramp it up. So I think it's, you know, we have this, the time is right now, I think, to start to dig in on these issues, because it's a culture shift for both those systems and how we interact with each other. It's a shared customer concept in terms of everyone from, at least from our side, from 10th grade up through 14th grade, and I think we have real appetite for it.
We're okay with that. I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we're in that spot.
And so, you know, along this, there's pending legislation as well, state level around dual enrollments, like AB 288, that would actually allow us to offer closed courses on a high school site. The open enrollment issue is